Hello, my name's Tom Walker. Welcome to That'll Be the Day. In this podcast, you're getting a musical treat. I go backstage at Liverpool's famous Cavern Club to speak to two members of the Doors Rising, a Liverpool-based Doors tribute band. But before we hear from Stuart Capstick, aka Jim Morrison, and Martyn Gilbert, aka Robbie Kreiger, if you like the music at the start of this podcast, it's a track called That'll Be the Day by the Liverpool band The Vow. And as always, I'll be featuring a track by the band at the end of this podcast. But in a slight change to the format, I'll also be featuring a live recording of the Doors Rising. To find out which tracks I've chosen, stay tuned. Now, on March the 22nd, 2020, just before the first lockdown, the Doors Rising were booked to play at the Cavern, but like everything else at that time, the gig was cancelled. A couple of days ago, some 18 months after their original booking, they finally made it and performed on the Cavern's famous stage. This is my conversation with Stuart and Martyn. I'm backstage here at the Cavern in Liverpool, in fact in the dressing room with two members of the Doors Rising. On my right here I have Stuart Capstick, aka Jim Morrison, and over to my left I have Martyn Gilbert, aka Robbie Kreiger. Jim, or should I call you Stuart really, tell me a little bit about the Doors Rising.
We've been playing now for 4 or 5 years, myself and Martyn originally, and now we've got a new lineup for this year, and it's sounding great, isn't it? It's the best we've been, and the most authentic we've been, so it's very faithful to the Doors, which is what we want.
Martyn, what is the enduring appeal of Jim Morrison?
Ooh, well, he's a poet.
Or me.
he had a lot of sex appeal. Let's not forget about that. But actually, he was a poet, and he was a wonderful singer. But he sort of captured that spirit of the late '60s when there was a lot of things going on in the States and in the world, and he captured that mood of revolution extremely well.
So Stuart, you were about to play a gig on the 22nd of March 2020, and of course because of lockdown and COVID it was cancelled.
Yeah, absolutely devastating. We had our second generation at that point, very nice guys who we'd brought in, Joel, Adam and Adrian, so we were a 5-piece at that stage. We thought it might be a bit of a change to have an actual bass player on the stage, as the Doors did when they recorded some of their albums, and it sounded great. It sounded different, but it was a real great sound. And we'd rehearsed, and we were 2 days off playing the Cavern, first time up, and we were all enthused and ready to blow everyone off the stage. And the world ended. So it was 18 months to get back to this point, 18 plus months. So this really feels like unfinished business, and just can't wait to get out there now, really.
From a musician's point of view and a performer's point of view, Martyn, how frustrating was lockdown for you?
Yeah, it's difficult because I can practice as much as I want, but it's playing with other musicians, playing live, and more importantly, playing in front of a live audience. I couldn't do that, and it's getting that feedback, that buzz from the crowd. There's nothing like it.
You feel alright? Hey Liverpool, nice to see you.
But I do see this as a bit of a rebirth for our bands. So the Doors Rising, the name's appropriate. We've got 2 new members. We're back to the Cavern gig that we were going to play, and we're sort of fired up, and we feel we sound more authentic than we ever have done.
You mentioned there the word authentic. I mean, how close to the Doors sound are you?
Well, I'd say we're pretty close, because when they played live, the keyboard player played the bass and the keys at the same time, and we do the same. And we sort of have the similar instruments that they played, and even the way we're dressed and things like that, to kind of capture that spirit. And when they played live, there was a lot of sort of fire, and there was a lot of improvisation, and we try to sort of bring that to what we do as well.
Were you able to meet up on Zoom during lockdown, Stuart?
We didn't do that. We did wait until things lifted. Obviously, we all kept in touch, and we brought in Andy and Carl, the 2 new members. So we were very much in conversation, but it was only earlier this year that we managed to actually kick things off, and it's been great. We've had 4 gigs or so far to get back into the groove of things and prepare ourselves for what is a pinnacle event so far here at the Cavern, so a great opportunity.
You've mentioned the Cavern a couple of times, so I've got to ask you both about playing here. Martyn, what does it mean to you?
Oh, it's the history, isn't it? The legacy of it. Just look, I mean, obviously the Beatles played here, but looking at some of the photos on the wall, so you've got Adele behind you, the Arctic Monkeys, Elbow, you know, these are just some of the really great names that have sat in this dressing room and graced that stage, so it's an absolute privilege.
And from your point of view, Stuart, the Cavern?
I think again, it's just it's just beyond words, really, isn't it? That it's such a great opportunity and great place. There's so much history here, various bands, and I've been lucky enough to see bands here. Now I'm getting the opportunity to do it myself.
So from your point of view, Stuart, this is just a starting point because you've got gigs lined up, not only in this country but overseas next year.
We've got a very full schedule already, which is great. Always on the lookout for more gigs, but yeah, we've got we're very privileged and pleased to be a part of Liverpool Live Aid at the end of this month at Grand Central Hall in this great city, Liverpool. And then we've got gigs far and wide across the northwest up to Christmas of next year, and we're away in Greece. We're in Lindos Rock Festival in Lindos in June of next year. So. Another great moment.
Stuart, Martyn, thank you very much indeed.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Okay, time for us all to face some music. Which tracks have I chosen? Well, the first one you'll hear is from The Vow, and that's called Disconnect, and it features yours truly. And then the second one is a live recording of The Doors Rising. It's Riders on the Storm.
Politics is finished. It comes as no surprise that it's all kicking off. Whether it's dodgy politicians lining their own pockets or governments doing dodgy deals with corrupt regimes, corruption is everywhere.
Oppress the oppressor, kill the dictator. Oppress the oppressor. Disconnect from you. I disconnect from you. I disconnect from you. Hail the rule breaker, the mind infiltrator. Disconnect from you. I disconnect from you. I disconnect from you. The radio is beyond redemption. The television will not be revolutionized. The radio is beyond redemption. The television will not be revolutionized. I disconnect from you. I disconnect from you. I disconnect from you.
Politics is finished. We like to think we're an example to the rest of the world. The only way ordinary people have to get their voices heard is to shout out loud. There's so much anger in the world. We really do live in the age of rage.
I'll have a whiskey while you're here.
movie will begin in 5 moments, the mindless voice announced. All those unseated will await the next show. We filed slowly, languidly into the hall. The auditorium was vast and silent. As we seated and were darkened, the voice continued. The program for this evening is not new. You've seen this entertainment through and through. You've seen your birth, your life, your death. You might recall all the rest. Do you have a good world when you die? Enough to base a movie on? Riders on a X-Men.